What's going on, everybody? Welcome to The Wire. It is Wednesday, August 25th, and it is the NFL edition exclusively this week. We are not talking about anything but football. We've got some things to say about Jacksonville. We're going to break down Tom Brady. We're going to break down Patrick Mahomes, not in a negative way. Don't take that the wrong way. We're going to talk about my boys in Pittsburgh and so much more. The Wire starts right now. All right. It's that time. I got three of my best friends in the room. Hopefully a fourth one coming. How are you guys doing real quick?
Good, brother.
Good. Roll. Glad to see. Richie's like, I heard him say Pittsburgh. I'm not even talking.
Yeah.
Don't worry. We're not kicking it off with
that.
To you. It is time for The Wire. We've got some great stuff, whether Richie believes it or not, to talk about today. But we're going to get things started off with Jacksonville. Okay, we talked about it a little bit on the show before, but the Jaguars have made the decision. They are going to release the former Bronco, Tim Tebow, in the second week of the preseason. Now, let's level it out before we get into the roundtable. The man took an 8-year hiatus from the sport of football. And when he came back, he stepped into a position that he's never played before. Now, in case you miss it, Tebow was less than underwhelming at tight end. He didn't appear to be able to effectively block, which is super essential to the role. He didn't really stand out in any way, shape, or form. So my first question to kick it around the horn, and Marvin, I'm going to start with you, man. Was it irresponsible to let Tebow take up this spot on the roster going into the preseason? And as a sidebar to that, do you feel that he got the shot just because of who he is?
Yeah, I think he got the shot because of nepotism. I mean, for real. I mean, he goes way back with Urban Meyer, that Florida connection with the Gators. And, it was a favor done to Tim Tebow to be on the team. I honestly felt like he wasn't deserving of the spot. He hasn't played football in, 7-8 years? A position he never played before, a position he really had no business playing because the position has evolved so much over the years. I mean, when you talk about tight ends, like the first top five come to mind. You got George Kittle, you got Travis Kelce, you got Darren Waller, you got Logan Thomas, you got, even I'll even throw Mike Gesicki in there. I'm pretty sure there's some other ones better, but those are actual tight ends that block and have been playing the position for years. And I just felt like he took a spot away from somebody that was working hard for that honestly deserved that spot, to prove themselves because, when you're going into a draft, an organization, you want to draft, the best optimal players. And they look at Tim Tebow, really, so I thought that it was, Urban Meyer saved face on this one by cutting him because if you kept him, I mean, they weren't going to use him at that position. He would have been they would have tried to use him like a Taysom Hill, use him the wrong way. And Taysom Hill's actually been playing football, though. Even though I think he's trash, he's been playing football. He's been playing consistent football. But Tim Tebow has not. So, I mean, when you go back and look at that one preseason game, and you look at that block, it was laughable. I started laughing because I was like, Si, you played football, and that wasn't on any level. That wasn't high school. That wasn't even elementary. I don't even know where they taught him how to do that. So he wasn't even ready for camp. He wasn't ready for that position. He was way in over his head, and now it's time to do something else. Si was saying before the show, anybody assign him. I think at this point, if he knows somebody somewhere in some organization, he'll get another opportunity, maybe with the Mets, but, not with the Jaguars.
Maybe he'll join the collegiate golf leagues. We're not going there. Him and J.R. Smith could hash that out. Richie, I've heard it said that we should take into consideration the fact that people should be able to try to live out their dreams, especially when they've built a huge sports career. I mean, he was pretty successful as a quarterback. He's had a great ESPN career. Do you still consider it irresponsible to put Tim Tebow in at tight end, even to entertain the idea in the preseason?
I mean, here's what I'll say. Irresponsible is probably the appropriate word, actually, because it's not fair to like all the talent in the NFL. And, you have these narratives. Troy Aikman even try to like bloviate this. And of course, Urban try to echo it, that Tim's leadership is a big part of why they brought him in. And it's like, well, you did Tim Tebow dirty too, right? Because like nobody wants to be cut. And then like the annals of history now, that's what's going to be like on his NFL career, which, we could discuss his NFL career separately. We off the air, I've already talked about, in my opinion, how he kind of got blackballed. And quite frankly, so the point being is, if you're going to put Tim Tebow in there and you really care about his leadership and you want him to stick on the football team, you at least put him in a position he's played before. So it should have been quarterback, although again, it shouldn't have been because he's been out of the league for 8 years. But having said that, putting him at a position he's never played, which is one of the more demanding skill sets, even though they don't get paid like they should, it's troublesome. So it's unfortunate. It is what it is. I don't think he's going to go back to baseball, but I was a little surprised when he did this in the first place because he'd been working so hard from single A to double A, and he just got into triple A and he was in triple A for the Mets. But, when you leave a team like that and say, deuces, I'm going back to my football dream, I don't think they're just going to be like open arms, like, sure, we'll take you back. And it's not like he was like blowing out the stadium. He didn't even have like a 200 batting average. So I think he's done with professional sports. I think he's going to go back to the college football analyst stuff. And, the thing I'll say is this, even though I'm so glad this will probably be the last time we talk about Tim Tebow ever, it's not like, let's not put this on Tim Tebow. You're an athlete, you're a competitor, and you believe you have an opportunity to do something. You're going to take that chance. This is about Urban Meyer putting him in a position to fail. It's really that simple. If I'm Tim Tebow and my college coach, who I loved, was like, hey, I'll give you a chance at this position. Even if, I'm like, hey, I've never played this, I'm going to try because like, if my coach believes I can do it, I'm going to try. So I think he set him up to fail. It's embarrassing that he even did that to him like that. If he was going to do this, why even give him a preseason game? Why didn't they cut him sooner? I don't understand this move. I think it was a dick move, quite frankly. And I don't know what's going on, but this just goes to show who Urban Meyer is. I've never been a fan of him as a coach, quite frankly. I think he ran Ohio State poorly and he let a lot of bull crap like behind the scenes happen. And I think the Jaguars are going to fail miserably. And I think this is more of like things to come for the Jaguars.
Saheem, man, I haven't been in Dayton in a little while. You think the Dragons got a spot for Tebow? I'm just kidding. What do you think, man? Is it an irresponsible decision to put Tim Tebow at tight end?
No, I feel like Tebow, he has that leadership in the locker room, like certain guys in the league were saying. I love Tim Tebow as an athlete. I want him to succeed every chance he gets. I thought he was going to go in there, challenge Trevor Lawrence for the job eventually, But this just shows me that Urban Meyer is trying to set a tone there in Jacksonville. Just because you're my guy doesn't mean I'm not going to cut you. You know what I'm saying? So you better come to work. You better, do your job to the best of your ability. That's going to set a tone in the locker room with those guys. So we'll see if it works. And just because he's got cut now doesn't mean he might not get signed. He learned the system down there. Yeah, he didn't have the greatest block, but it wasn't like he got blown up and his guy made the tackle that he was supposed to, block, So, all roads aren't bad, and I don't think they're all closed for Tim Tebow. He's an older guy. He's been through a rigorous training camp, so he needs time to rest. Maybe we won't see him week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, but if those Jaguars are looking good. And Urban Meyer's like, well, the league is on to us. Let's do what we did in camp. It says, oh, Timmy, you ready? You know what I'm saying? We can see something. So I'm rooting for the guy, man. I don't think it was irresponsible. I think it was the right thing to do.
Sahi, level with me here. let's
man.
Here on the wire. Let's go hot off the wire, Sahi. Is that the performance that you expected to see, or are you actually saying that you were disappointed to see him not succeed?
Well, I really didn't know what I was expecting because I didn't think they'd play him in preseason. I thought he'd be one of those underrated, under the radar gadget guys, but they threw him out there to see what he could do. The media and everything, you know what I'm saying, they're going to attack his play. He's a circus, so it's going to help keep Trevor Lawrence under the radar. So I feel like as much as they can, because he grabs a lot of attention himself. So Tim Tebow, man, you guys don't see it now, but you will.
Oh, Richie, were you disappointed, or did you expect nothing less than failure?
I didn't expect. How do I say this? Did I expect him to not necessarily work out at tight end? Yes, but I also didn't expect him to play tight end. I thought it was a smokescreen. I thought they were going to say he was tight end and then pull him into like third quarterback, or something. And what I was expecting is like on 3rd and 2, they just run him in Wildcat and he just hammers it. Because as much as we want to joke about Tim Tebow, the dude's like 260 pounds of muscle. And if he wants to get 2 yards, he's going to get 2. The only guy I can think of that was similar is like Mike Allstott. It's just this big white boy that's just like, if he wanted that 2 yards, he's only going to get you 2 yards probably, but he'll get you 2 yards every time. And like, that's what I really expected them to do. And to Sahi's point, I also expected them to keep him because I expected them to use the Tim Tebow shield of coverage so that Trevor Lawrence could like just play football and like, oh, everything's about Tim Tebow. And, is he going to play this, that, and the other? And then Trevor Lawrence could just play. So I didn't expect Tim Tebow to fail because I expected them to put him in a position where he could succeed. And like I said earlier, they didn't put him in that position. And so for that, I think it's a failure of Urban Meyer, quite frankly.
More so disappointed in the coach.
Yes, for sure.
Marvin's gone. We'll move on to this next episode.
Yeah, he over Tim Tebow anyway. He
said, I'm done with Tim Tebow. I'm out. Now he's back. He's like, let me walk off this Tebow depression real quick.
Believe in him, man. It's Tebow.
we can leave him alone.
All he did was win.
I'm excited to start the next topic with you because I know that means we have to make Sahi, the man with the trophy and the flag behind him, wait. The reigning Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers going into this preseason now. We'll talk about it a little more detail at the end of the show, but we're all going to do a fantasy football draft starting next week. And you guys are going to get those updates throughout the wire. But so this is big news for fantasy guys. They have brought back all 22 of their starters. This is not something that we see very often in the NFL. Now, expectations for Tom Brady moving into Tampa Bay last year were pretty high. Everyone's like, it's Tom Brady. This is the real chance to prove whether or not it was him or Belichick or the offense or the Patriots or whatever. Expectations were high. Now, after going through the league MVP and Aaron Rodgers to get to the Super Bowl and defeating a powerhouse young superstar like Patrick Mahomes to win the Super Bowl, my first question, Marvin, do you think the expectations are higher for this 44-year-old man as he's heading in? He's a 6-time Super Bowl champion as he's heading into this year.
Yeah, I think that anytime that you're playing, past the point of you're playing past your prime. He's still still delivering, but all the pressure's on him to succeed. They brought everybody back, and I think that Tom Brady still trying to prove that he can play this game at age 44, and him rumors speculating that he wants to play till he's 50. I think that every year there's pressure for him, even for himself, to win it. And I think that now that, the Bucks have a chance to repeat, bringing everybody back. But, I think that pressure doesn't really exist so much on Patrick Mahomes, because only if they meet again. I think all the pressure will shift towards Patrick Mahomes if they somehow meet again in the Super Bowl. But I think that pressure is always going to remain there with Brady as long as he keeps playing and win it all, because that's what everybody expects. They don't expect a great regular season from the Buccaneers. Now that they've won a Super Bowl and they brought everybody back, Tom Brady's expecting to get, 8 this time. He says, what's the best part about winning a ring? And that's the next one. So every time he says something like that, he puts the pressure on himself and the organization to win.
Richie, what do you think? After all he's accomplished and all he's done in his career, could expectations really be higher for Tom Brady this year?
Higher? I'll say no and yes. And that's a cop-out, but let me explain. No, in the sense of they're never higher, but every year the expectation is Tom Brady is going to win the Super Bowl. That's the expectation, right? Flat out. At the same time, yes, it is a higher expectation because he's the defending Super Bowl champion. And one of the things I've been harping on is last year he came into camp without getting to go into camp. So he had to learn to play a system during the regular season. Now he's got a camp. Antonio Brown's looking the best he's looked in years. So in terms of where they expect the Buccaneers to play, everyone expects them even better than last year. But, make no mistakes about it. Like, that's not going to bother Tom Brady at all. You know what I mean? Like, I know we're going to have a question later, and I'm not going to say anything. I'll wait till that's there. But the bottom line is the expectations are theoretically higher, but it's not. At the end of the result is still the same expectation. Tom Brady, Super Bowl or bust. That's always been the expectation. It was for Bill Belichick until he lost. Now we want to talk about pressure. We'll get into that as well. But for Tom Brady, the expectation is always a chip. He's the GOAT for a reason. The expectation is no different this year.
All right, Sahi, you waited patiently. You sat there and nodded, a couple of smiles. My question for you, and be real with us. I mean, do you think, just amongst even the Tampa Bay fans, do you think expectations of Tom Brady have gone up after he showed everyone what he could do?
I mean, I agree with both guys. Like, expectations can't be any higher. It's Tom Brady. As soon as he got here, he had the expectation for Super Bowl, and that's what you want. So expectations are through the roof, and they have been through the roof for a while until he decides to hang it up. You know what I'm saying? Like, wherever he goes, that's going to be the expectation.
All right. So real quick, I think the best person for this, and if you guys want to chime in, you're more than welcome to. Real quick, before we get into the next question, Richie, could you do me a favor and break down for our listeners and us in the studio, what do you think the difference between being targeted by expectations and being under pressure means in the NFL?
Well, I don't know if I'm necessarily the best person, but here's what I'll say. Expectations are about confidence and capability, right? Like the expectations are you have a confidence in this person or group or team, etc. And this is usually done in early development for children, that you explain to them and I expect you to be able to do this, right? Expectations, if they're unrealistic, can lead to pressure, right? That there is a difference, right? For instance, like as we discussed, Tom Brady has the expectation year in and year out to win the Super Bowl, but he doesn't feel that pressure because he's so used to the expectation at this point in his career, it doesn't bother him. And he even said it. I went to Tampa Bay because it was my best chance to win the Super Bowl and they wanted me, right? It's really that simple. So it's really a matter of, for the person, do they believe whatever the media and themselves put on their plate that they can handle it? And if it's something that's supported by the team through mindset, coaching, etc., then it doesn't bleed into pressure. An example we'll just discuss real quick is Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady, right? Everyone's always anointed Patrick Mahomes, my homeboy, like the best quarterback in the league. He ran into Tom Brady and he lost. What happened there? Pressure. It's that simple. We can talk, don't get me wrong, Tampa Bay's pressure itself was a big part of that too. But the bottom line is just, it was a young man who ran into the GOAT and like the lights got too big for him. Because the expectation was Super Bowl for Kansas City the entire year as well. But that's where that pressure can bleed into it, right? Where it's like, okay, I'm playing where I was supposed to play, but now I can't handle these lights. I can't handle all these external factors. So expectations and pressure are completely different, because expectation is the belief of where something or someone or a group should be. And pressure is like when those factors are too overwhelming for said group or person. So in the case of Tom Brady, the man doesn't feel pressure anymore. Maybe 10 years ago, but certainly not in the last 10 years. He's been to 50% of the last the Super Bowls, whatever, in the last 20 years, something like that. It's crazy. Yeah. The man is ice cold. It's crazy.
Marvin, now that being said, with that, is everybody's cool with his definition between expectations and pressure? Everybody agrees there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
With that being said, they're bringing all 22 starters back. They've got this stellar defense. They've got all these weapons. They've got Tom Brady. Nothing's ever this perfect. Nothing could ever go this right
for him.
Into the NFL, coming out of a COVID season with an extra game in the regular. Nothing's ever this perfect. And the man is 44 years old. The expectations, in my opinion, and based on what everyone says, have never been higher. Whether or not that bothers him, that's my question for you. Do you think the level of expectation supersedes the level of pressure that Tom Brady will feel?
No, because ultimately the defense has to live up to that expectation. Because at the end of the day, it's about keeping the other high scoring teams from scoring points. And really, their season is going to be judged on how healthy they are. Like you said, the expectation, the pressure comes in where you brought all 22 starters back, but we all have to remember those 22 starters chipped in with that Super Bowl. So you need all hands on deck. Tom Brady needs, those weapons. You need a healthy Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin's had some durability issues for the last couple of seasons, but he's a phenomenal receiver. You got Mike Evans, these guys are the top 100. And like Richie was saying, a healthy, fully loaded Antonio Brown they're going to get for a whole season. So you want your offense to stay healthy, especially the running backs. The tight end. Their tight end position is old. You got Gronkowski, you got OJ Howard, and the offensive line. I think they've elevated their level of play since Jameis Winston's left, and they've got an actual quarterback that throws touchdowns opposed to interceptions. So I think when you look at their defense as a whole, you hope that they stay healthy. I think that's where all the expectation comes in, is that this team that's brought 22 starters back is going to get back to the Super Bowl, assuming everybody's healthy. So I think that's where it supersedes, Tom Brady's expectations for a Super Bowl, is how healthy his team is.
Sahi, these are your guys, man. It can't be all rainbows and sunshine down there in Florida. We know it rains like 3 or 4 times a day. But do you think the pressure could possibly supersede the expectations of Tom Brady and actually get to him this year, having this much on the line, being 44, going for more Super Bowls than anyone's ever gotten, and more than any team's ever gotten? He's at 6 now. That's the record held by your boys in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Richie said the pressure doesn't get to Tom Brady. All right, so that's said. What is Tom Brady? He's a leader of that football team. So his ability to shut down that pressure and stay cool and calm under that pressure and just, rise to the level of those expectations, that rubs off on the whole team. And that was evident all year last year. It wasn't just the 22 starters, Antonio Brown, Gronkowski, that was making those big plays for us to win. Yeah, Gronkowski and Antonio Brown were the ones that scored in the Super Bowl, but they barely did much all year. I'm not saying that as like slight to them, but like compared to guys like Scotty Miller or Tyler Johnson, Nunez Roaches down there on the D line where Vita Veda is down. You know what I'm saying? We had injuries last year, and we had guys step up because they feel that expectation from Tom Brady, and they see how he handles it, and they're like, "Yo, this pressure ain't nothing." I feel like it's extremely hard to go perfect in the NFL season. So who knows if they'll go 17-0. But once playoff time comes, Tom Brady is going to have them boys ready and focused. You best believe it. Better believe it.
Richie, I know for a fact we're gonna end the Tampa Bay discussion with you. I know for a fact you don't believe in sunshines and rainbows when it comes to the NFL. Where, if it's not with Tom Brady, where do you think the pressure lies if it does supersede expectations somewhere?
Okay, well, here's what I'll say. It's not Tom Brady. To me, it's the defense. And again, it's not that the defense is bad. Let me clarify. It's very simple. It's 2019. They were the 32nd last ranked secondary. Now they improved, and right now they're a touted top 5. But I think that's where, if anywhere, the pressure is really going to be, because as we've already expressed, they already had 2 stud wide receivers. Now they got a third guy, which most people didn't want to take a chance on. But the third guy and Tom Brady have a connection we just don't understand. And the bottom line is they like each other. And in the back half of the season, he was targeted only 4 less times than Godwin or Evans. So he's going to get targeted. And their offense is going to succeed. And their defense is stout, but it really comes down to, from, what was it? I think through 2013 through 2015, they were like the last in pass rush. So for years, they were just drafting secondary. And most of it didn't pan out, but it's been starting to stick. And we already know about their pass rush, which was the key against Kansas City. But that secondary is going to have to step up and really play consistently. And they played their asses off against Kansas City, but in terms of that perfect run of 17-0, it's going to be on the secondary realistically. That pass rush is fantastic. That run defense is fantastic, quite frankly. And it'll come down to, can they stop, the tickers on the outside? And if they can do that, and if their safeties can play, that's really where that pressure will be. But, again, I'm not going to go against them. They won't go undefeated. I'm going to say all that on the record. There's no way they'll go undefeated, but I fully expect them to be a juggernaut. I expect like a 14-3 or 15-2 type season. I don't think they're going to lose many games.
Well, if you're a Kansas City fan, you feel like we threw shade on them. Don't worry. When we come back from the break, we are going to talk about Kansas City and the boy, Patrick Mahomes. You are watching The Wire. Real quick, make sure you let us know what you think about the 2 topics we discussed in the comments below. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube. You can leave us a review on Spotify. But do me a favor, people. When you're on these locations, don't just stop by and listen to us. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. If you're on YouTube, hit the notifications so you know when we're dropping something new. And something brand new this last week, we put in a Patreon. This is a way for you to show us some support, but also no one's ever seen The Wire's bloopers before. And believe me, we have some. That's just some of the exclusive content you can get by becoming a patron for H2G Podcast, which is our mother podcast. So don't go anywhere. When we come back, we're going to talk about Kansas City. We're going to talk about Pittsburgh and so much more. You're watching The Wire. Speaking of Pittsburgh, I just want to say, welcome back to The Wire. Yeah, you saw it right. The H2G Podcast. Make sure you check that out. It's on Fridays at 7. This Friday will be the finale, so you don't want to miss it. It's 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but you can catch all the reruns on Facebook and YouTube. Enough of that. Let's talk sports. We talked a lot about expectations and pressure. I'm going to stick with that theme. On the subject of expectations, let's move over to Kansas City. Now, they've got a franchise quarterback and Super Bowl champion in Patrick Mahomes. My first question to you guys, and we're going to start, the rotation shifted on me on the screen. So I'm going to start with Richie. Richie, my first question is, do you think that the events of Super Bowl 55 laid out a blueprint for the rest of the league on how to slow down Patrick Mahomes? Not how to stop him, but how to slow him down.
Yeah, sure. You have to have like a top 3 defensive line that can generate 48 sacks a season. No problem. No, I mean, in all seriousness, no. I mean, I think it's what we discussed. It was pressure in the pocket and pressure from the game. You know, that's just the reality. It was an anomaly of a bad game caused by a great defense and caused by an even better performance by that defense. I don't believe there's a blueprint. I mean, I'll try to be succinct about it. It was one of those things where Tampa played their asses off. And when you're that good of a defense and you play that well and you punch somebody in the face right from the get-go, sometimes they don't recover. And I think that was the case of Patrick not recovering. I mean, he got hit square in the jaw and he never looked right. And he was running for his life the whole game, which again, he's a very athletic kid and normally can run and gun. And quite frankly, sometimes he does that little out of the pocket shuffling too much, quite frankly. But the bottom line is I don't think it's a blueprint, right? Like, for instance, LA Rams are my team in terms of like defense when I think of defense. And you throw the LA Rams, which are the number 1 statistical defense in the league, and you throw them at Patrick Mahomes, I think 50-50 coin flip, he's going to have a great game. And to me, that's the number 1 defense. And that's the point is, if that defense, in my opinion, is going to coin flip him, all the other defenses that aren't that good are not going to coin flip him. Tampa played great. They have a very specific and niche setup of such a dominant defensive line that I don't think you can emulate that unless you already have it. So you look at your Arizonas and your Clevelands and your Tampas and your LA, and you think outside of that, I don't know, man. I still think Patrick Mahomes is going to run the AFC. I don't think anything's going to slow him down.
Marvin, do you tend to agree with that, or do you think that some of these big hitting defenses that Richie mentioned? I mean, I know you hate me to talk about it, but Cleveland or LA or any of these other, powerhouse defensive teams, do you think that they've got kind of an insight on how they might be able to slow down that kid?
Yeah, I think they do. I think that when you have a full season in effect, having preseason, obviously you can't see the starters, but that gives teams more time to prepare for a 17-game season, and when the Chiefs come up on the schedule, I'm looking at their division. I'm looking at the Chargers, who are going to make a big leap this year, I feel. Now, defensively, they may have lost some pieces, but I think that they have the blueprint to take down, the Chiefs offensively. I think they've got the weapons in the Chargers. They're up and coming team. You got Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler. They've got a committee of running backs that can give you a lot. Their core, and like I said, they seem to have a great interior D line in Joey Bosa. So, I mean, you get the wrong, come playoff time, you get a hungry Tennessee Titans team, who's been trying to knock off the Chiefs for the longest. I think they're finally looking at it this year like they can do it. I think they, had them signing Julio Jones and Derrick Henry doing what he does. They're contenders to take out the Chiefs. So I think that the Super Bowl defensively, what the Buccaneers were able to do to Pat Mahomes, other teams defensively looked at that. And so I think that other teams are going to build on their adjustments and their regular season losses to the Chiefs from last year and really kind of use that this year for the regular season, because in order to beat Patrick Mahomes, you got to make him run around. You got to make him run around till he's tired. Like Richie said, you got to knock him in the mouth and then you just got to beat him up. And some of these defenses, they try, but you got to really be on the same, everyone's got to be on the same page if they want to, take out the reigning, AFC champs, which is not going to be a tough task. I honestly think it's going to come down to the AFC title game between the Chiefs and the Titans. That's my prediction. And I honestly think that Titans could pull it out this year. Just offensively, they've got the weapons. You've got A.J. Brown, Julio Jones, Derrick Henry. It might be too much. And their defense every year, Mike Vrabel, one of the best coaches in the league, I think. I think they're going to contend. And The Chiefs aren't guaranteed to come out of the AFC. They come out of the AFC 2 years in a row. This isn't basketball. They're not the Golden State Warriors, so they can be stopped. On paper, it looks like they're very dominant, but I think that they're gonna run into some obstacles this year.
Man. Second week of the preseason, and Marvin's talking about AFC championships up in here. Woo! It's getting hot. Sahi, did your boys down in Tampa Bay let some cats out of the bag? Do you think that they laid out a blueprint on what needs to be done to stop the dominant force that is Patrick Mahomes when he's in the pocket?
I think the reason why Patrick Mahomes is so great is because you'll do everything right to try to stop him, but he'll just make a play anyway. The blueprint has been out there. You know what you got to do. You got to get pressure on him, and you got to jam those receivers at the line. You got to have people over top. But you have to get to Patrick Mahomes. You can't almost get there. You got to get there. Most teams aren't able to get there. The Cleveland Browns, it's going to be interesting to see them play the Chiefs week 1 because they played them tough in the playoffs last year. They had a chance to win, but they weren't just quite ready yet. They felt that pressure like we were talking about. And they had exceeded all expectations. So it was nothing but pressure at that point. You know what I'm saying? Nobody expected the Browns to be there. And they just couldn't handle it at the time. Baker Mayfield's a young guy, but the blueprint has always been out there. And I feel like the Cleveland Browns has what it takes to implement what we showed the rest of the league could be done. So it's going to be interesting to see. But the Chiefs, they're going to be a top team in the AFC, like everybody said. Not every defense is able to stop them like we have, but watch out for those Browns. Man. AFC Championship, Browns and Chiefs.
Yeah, I mentioned the Browns.
That's game 1, by the way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We got another AFC Championship.
Yeah, just like the Buccaneers and the Saints played week 1. Then we ended up playing them in the NFC. Well, it was a divisional round, but we played the Packers. Never mind. Never mind.
Well, I'll let you get that sip in then. Sahi, let's flip the coin a little bit. Patrick Mahomes is 25 years old with an MVP under the belt. He's got a Super Bowl under the belt. He's right now ranked on the list that we saw anyway, number 1 quarterback in the league. What do you expect from Patrick Mahomes after taking that loss to Tampa Bay going into this 17-game season?
I expect him to come back with a vengeance and tear the league up. He wants to get back there. He wants to prove that was a fluke, that they didn't have the right tackles, the left tackle. He didn't have his offensive line, so that's why he lost, and he's thinking about that. So he's ready to come back and tear it up, and I expect nothing less from him. He's a great quarterback, and it would be a pleasure to see him again in the Super Bowl.
Marvin, what about you, man? What are your expectations of Patrick Mahomes as he comes off that Super Bowl loss to Tom Brady and heads into this new season?
Expectations really haven't changed much since last year and the year before. I mean, you expect him to put on a MVP caliber, have an MVP caliber season. For him to, lead the Chiefs, to the postseason again. But I don't think, Patrick Mahomes being as great as he is and having the weapons around him, I really don't think that, there's a lot of pressure for him to get back. He's already won 1. It'd been different if he had gone to 2, he had gone to 2 Super Bowls and lost, but he's gone to 1 and, going to back-to-back Super Bowls, 1 and 2. But, if he goes back, and if they somehow make it back, to the Super Bowl and the Bucs are there, that's when the shift, that's like I said earlier, that's when the pressure turns up for the Chiefs, because he's going to have to play a lot different, different styles of play, than what he played last time against the Bucs. So I really don't think there's much going on much to expect from him since that, other than you just expect a lot more from his weapons around him. If I can say that, you expect Travis Kelce to keep playing consistently. You don't really know how many good seasons he has left, at an elite level. And you got Tyreek Hill. How long is he going to be the fastest receiver in the league? So you got their pieces on offense are questionable. We know how great he is, but is Metco Hardman that guy opposite of Tyreek Hill? Is he that guy? Is Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the Fresh Prince of Hilaire, is he that guy? I don't know. You look at the pieces, you just hope that he's got enough around him, because you saw what the Bucs did. The Tom Brady got weapons, man. He got weapons more than Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is like LeBron at that position. You can only, he can do everything, but you can only do so much with the core around you. And they got a big three: him, Travis Kelce, and Tyreek. So that's where the pressure is on those three guys to make it back.
Richie, and he brought up an additional question that I'll throw into yours. I've got the same question for you, but also, is this whole season about making up for, both of them kind of brought this question to me, making up for the mistakes that he made in the Super Bowl, finding what he did wrong? Obviously, they put some focus in the draft on replacing that line. They gave him something around him. It remains to be seen how effective that'll be. Do you think he's going to be playing that Super Bowl over all year? And in addition to that, what do you expect from Patrick Mahomes?
Well, here's what I'll say. I don't think he's thinking redemption season, because let's not forget the season he had. Barring Aaron Rodgers' performance, he was the MVP outside of Aaron Rodgers. I don't believe, at this point, when you're a competitor and you lose, you have to take any opportunity you can to focus on your greatness and moving forward. And I think, if I'm Patrick Mahomes, I'm thinking about my whole line was missing, and they hit me in the mouth and I wasn't ready. But, this year, that's not going to happen. I don't think he's thinking redemption season. I just think he's ready to kick some butt. But as to how I expect his performance, I think it's going to be great, but I do not believe it will be the same as the last few years. I think losing Sammy Watkins is going to be a bigger deal than people are realizing. I think Marvin already pointed that out, quite frankly. Don't get me wrong, Sammy doesn't have those big numbers because, again, the lion's share was going to two dudes. But when you have two other guys, getting 400 or 500 yards a pop, and Sammy also kind of giving you that nice little slot receiver, wiggle, skinny posts and getting those 15-yard catches you need when the other two are getting doubled on both sides, that's kind of what you need. And so losing Sammy, I don't think is going to be the biggest deal. And I'm surprised he went to Baltimore. Allegedly, Pittsburgh offered and he decided Baltimore. But the point being is, I think Sammy Watkins could be a big deal. I don't believe Patrick Mahomes is going to be washed. I still expect him to be a top 4 quarterback, but I don't think he's going to be number 1. I don't think he's going to have the most yards and the most touchdowns this year. I really don't see that happening. I think losing Sammy is going to be a big deal. I don't know much about Hardman, so maybe I'm wrong, but I never saw a game where he jumped out on me when I was watching Kansas City. And, I don't know. We'll have to see. What I will say is I expect him to be top 4. I don't think he's going to be number 1, but I expect him to still have that dominating performance. And we'll really see if they make it. Again, expectation Super Bowl, not necessarily my pick. Sahi mentioned Cleveland, and I think Cleveland and Tennessee are two guys you're going to have to watch for this season. Cleveland is getting a returning Odell Beckham Jr., and I've been very down on him lately. But bottom line is Odell Beckham Jr. is coming back, and you got a quarterback with another year of experience. You got a fantastic defense, and you have the best 1-2 combo in the backfield. So Kansas City's a lot of work ahead of them, and we'll see. But to me, they're still the reigning, defending AFC champs, and you got to beat them.
You're bringing another question to my brain, Richie. I heard it. Let me just do shouts out real quick to Max Kellerman, because we heard this week that he's going to be leaving his post and leaving Stephen A all by him lonesome. But I did hear him in a conversation with Stephen A this week. And he said that even with a healthy offensive line, Mahomes and the Chiefs offense would have been no match for Tampa Bay's defense. Do you agree with that statement?
Yeah, true. I don't think it mattered. Tampa played amazing. I don't care who's blocking that. They're not gonna. No, Tampa won that game. That line wouldn't have changed anything. And it really comes down to, I'll say this. Andy Reid and them should have tried different play calling, right, to avoid that pressure. I think that would have been a better approach, but I don't think the line would have changed anything. I think it more or less should have been managing the inefficiencies of what was happening and trying to get him on those quick 5 steps or shotgun more. When you try these 7-stick draws, there's a defensive end. He gets slapped, by Pierre-Paul, all these people. Bottom line, no, it wouldn't have made a difference. I agree with Max Kellerman, quite frankly. Tampa Bay's defense would have demolished them either way. I don't think they're ready for it.
Marvin, what do you think? Do you agree with Max, or do you think with a healthy offensive line, they would have had a better chance?
With a healthy offensive line, they would have had a better chance. I mean, you give Patrick Mahomes more time in the pocket. He's not scrambling around. And we all know he's the best pocket passer in the league next to Aaron Rodgers. So if they had given him more time in the pocket, I think it would have been more competitive than it was, and it probably would have came down to the wire. But ultimately, I think Tampa Bay was the most talented team in that Super Bowl, despite the line. I think that Tampa Bay, they wanted a revenge game, and that was a home field game. And I think that I can't completely agree with Max there, only on the line part. It would have made a significant difference down the stretch. But I felt like the outcome, Tom Brady was already working that defense. So, I think they would have marched down the field, 90-second drill. Ryan Suckup, or maybe even a touchdown would have done it. But the line made a difference, but, it wasn't going to be the end-all, be-all because, the other guys didn't step up either.
Quick question, Justin.
Yeah.
Do the Kansas City Chiefs have Eli Manning?
I don't believe so.
No, they don't. Okay, then there's no way Tampa Bay loses that game. It's that simple.
Sahi, and I just realized this for all of you watching. I realized you had some people in the room watching. I can see the reflection in the big giant trophy you have there.
Yeah.
Do you think Max is giving your boys too much credit, or do you agree that it didn't matter who they had blocking Mahomes?
I mean, Max is just telling the truth. It's obvious to see.
Preach.
Yeah, they would have had a better chance to maybe score a touchdown, which they failed to do. I think they might have been able to score a touchdown. But other than that, win the actual game, no chance. I don't care who they had out there.
Oh my God. All right, let's move on.
That's facts.
I think we already covered. I was gonna ask about an undefeated season, but I think we already covered. We don't anticipate undefeated seasons right here. Let's move on. I got a quick take that I know will fire Marvin up. We'll start with Sahi. We talked a lot today about expectations and pressure, and I think that's kind of the story of the NFL going in from this stage. Right here in the middle of the preseason. Which of the following 2 QBs, Sahi, do you feel is under the most pressure to succeed this year, and why do you think that? Matthew Stafford or Dak Prescott?
That's a great question. I don't feel like Dak Prescott is under any pressure. As long as Dak Prescott comes out and plays, Dallas wins a few games. Maybe they're pushing to win that division down there in the NFC East. Who knows? It's a coin flip down there. He's not under any pressure. Everybody knows what the Cowboys were last year. They're just happy to get him back. The guy that's under the most pressure is Matthew Stafford because he's coming in with all this hype. Sean McVay is one of the best coaches that the NFL has seen in a long, long time. He's a fresh new coach. He was just in the Super Bowl with a guy that they're saying was trash. Jared Goff didn't have it. So Matthew Stafford has to come in and perform. I believe he will live up to the hype somewhat, but it's a lot to ask. You know what I'm saying? To come in and step in year one and do what Tom Brady did last year. Now he's got a whole training camp. He's figuring things out. He's looking good down there. But the week one lights are going to be shining here real soon. So let's see if Matthew Stafford can do the things that we all believe he can do. You know, he's a great quarterback.
I hate to put this man's name back in your mouth, Marvin, but which of these two quarterbacks, Matthew Stafford or Dak Prescott, do you feel will be under more pressure this year to succeed?
Well, I'm going to surprise you, man. I'm not going to be as fired up on Matt Stafford as I usually am, because all the pressure is not on Matt Stafford. Believe it or not, Kim, you don't believe I'm saying that, but there's no pressure on Matt Stafford. They got an older version of Jared Goff. That's what they got. They love the fact that Matt Stafford has been a career hanged up, you know, being the warrior that he is, finishing games. They're always cheering him on like, God, he's such a warrior. Like he broke his hand and he's still playing the whole game. And I mean, that's what the Rams signed, is an older version of Jared Goff. So there's no pressure for Matt Stafford to be any more than what he is. They want Matt Stafford to be a game manager at this point, because they did not plan the game plan around Matt Stafford this year. It was around Cam Akers and, you know, hopefully some longer routes than 6 yards that, you know, Cooper Kupp can run. You know, they just wanted Matt Stafford to just utilize those two weapons. You know, they're hoping that he does. So there's no really any pressure for him to do much. They just really hope that that he gets them to really to the playoffs this year. They have no running game, so there's no pressure for them to really do much. But I think all the pressure's on Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott coming from a career-ending, you know, injury, you know, he's had 2 surgeries on that ankle. Like, I think that Dak Prescott has so much pressure coming into this season, because the Cowboys were trash last year. You know, they had Ben DiNucci, their backup quarterback. He was out of the game, and then Cooper Rush came in, and they were terrible. Zeke fumbled 6 times during that season. So all the pressure is on one guy, and reports have come out saying that Dak has got an injury that can linger through the whole regular season. And you see Saeed down there salivating at the mouth because the Bucks play the Cowboys week 1, and if Dak is not even close to 100%, that defense will put Dak back on the shelf. And that's something you don't want to see. But I think that all the pressure's on Dak, because another reason, you know, Jerry Jones has paid him all this money. You know, so all the pressure's definitely on him. Jerry Jones said in an episode of Hard Knocks, he said, I think I have rocks in my pocket. Otherwise, he'd float off because I don't have any more money, because he's paid it all to Dak. So all the pressure's on him, because Jerry Jones wants to get back to the Super Bowl. The Rams aren't expecting to go into the Super Bowl with Matt Stafford. You're not going to a Super Bowl with Matt Stafford. I don't care what anyone on this panel thinks, or what kind of warrior, what kind of quarterback you think Matt Stafford is. He's not a Hall of Fame quarterback. Once he's done, he's done. He's a glorified Phillip Rivers at this point. So I think all of the pressure's on Dak, not Matt.
Man, all right. Well, we got some confliction here on the wire finally. What do you think, Richie? Out of the two, Matt Stafford, Dak Prescott, who's facing more?
I was about to say. No, I'm cutting you off. I got this. Like Marvin, I'm used to Sahi trolling me, not you trolling me. This is one of the funniest things I've ever heard. No. Let's go. Okay. They're going to lose week 1. They're going to lose to the Buccaneers, the Cowboys. Then they play the Chargers, who you've said it is better. All right. They might beat the Eagles. They'll lose to the Panthers. They're going to lose to the Giants. They'll lose to the Patriots. I will be shocked if they go 7-10. There's no pressure on Dak Prescott. The Cowboys suck. Even when he was healthy, they went 8-8. They ain't going nowhere.
They have one of the most prolific offenses already set in place.
Excuse me? Prolific? Bro, this ain't 2018. Ezekiel Elliott hasn't done nothing in years. What are you talking about?
You've got
Mute his mic. Get out of here. This is my time to talk. This is my time to talk.
You got Michael Gallup.
No, this is my time to talk. What you talking about?
All right, go ahead.
You had your time. This is my time. This is my mic.
Go ahead. You got it.
Hold on. We're going to talk about this prolific offense before I actually even get to the Rams part of things. Okay, we got Ezekiel Elliott, who is a shell of himself, dude. That dude got the bag and then just decided, you know what? I don't care if I run 1,000 yards again. And I don't blame him. I'm not hating. Dude, get your money. I hope he continues to make his money. You know, Ohio State, good for you, man. You know, you got Amari Cooper, who's a baller. I'll never smack talk Amari Cooper, but that's all you got. Bro, he got 5,000 yards in 2019 because they were always down by 40 points. So they're throwing the damn ball. Of course, he got 5,000 yards. It was in trash time when it was like the third string. Nobody cared. They already scored down 37 points in the game. Like, I'm not saying Dak is bad. Like, let's not go to that narrative. It's not that Dak Prescott is bad. It's that the Dallas Cowboys are bad. And every year people talk about, oh, they're going to make it. And it's because the NFC East sucks and they can go 8-8 and win the goddamn division. That's what this is about. Yeah, they might make the playoffs, but they suck. Okay, now let's get to the Rams. And I'm with Marvin on one point. They don't have no offense. And yes, they played Green Bay and they have the number one defense. And we can talk all this, that, and the other. But that's to Matt Stafford's benefit. They have nobodies. There is nobody on that team that's worth a damn. And so for me, Matt Stafford has more pressure because the expectation with this trade is that he will magically make this garbage better. And he won't. As somebody who says he's great, he won't. You can't carry garbage. It's that simple. And that offense is garbage. They have nobodies. And I completely concur with Marvin on the latter point that all they're going to be doing is running that damn ball because they don't have anything, and his gumption and his toughness and his rocket arm won't change that. They're going to rely on their defense. They're going to have low scoring games, and that's how they get by. But the bottom line is Matt Stafford is expected to elevate this team. That's why they made this trade. First round pick and traded their starter for this guy. Dak Prescott is coming off with an excuse already that he's got a lingering injury. So if he sucks, nobody cares because he's injured. So to me, the pressure is absolutely on the guy who can't succeed and not on the guy who has every excuse on the planet to play terribly.
All right, let's do a quick take. Let's get away from this heat. It's too hot in the studio for me. I already live in Texas, guys. I live too close to the Dallas Stadium. I'm not a fan, but
you're going to be hearing it week in and week out.
Things are hot over here right now. There are certain teams that seem to make the conversation when we talk NFL on the Wire a lot. One particular team used to be the discussion every single week on the Wire, whether I brought them or Tony Ray brought them or one of you guys brought them, and that's the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, my question before I say a couple of things is, are we overlooking the Pittsburgh Steelers? Because let's not forget, they did start out the 2021 season 11-0. They finished out 12-4. They did ultimately go home after losing the wild card to the Browns, but they still carry a stellar defense. They now do have a full boat of weapons, including Najee Harris out of Oklahoma. Don't forget that, man. And of course, they're led by an 18-year veteran of the NFL. Regardless of what I think of him, Ben Roethlisberger. So the question at hand is, are they being overlooked? And as a sidebar, and this is like, you got about a minute and a half to two each. Do you think that they will finish, or where do you think that they'll finish in the division? That's the best way to put that question. Richie will go back reverse order and name Wasahi.
Okay, hot take. They're going to finish last. No, I'm just kidding. I expect them to finish, I'm going to say second, but I could see third. I fully expect the Cleveland Browns to win this division, period. Now let's move on to the Steelers because that's the topic of discussion. Do I think they're being overlooked? No. I think they're where they're at. I think Najee Harris was like it's one of those things the Steelers will get annoyed because it's like they always have somebody fall into their lap that it's exactly what they want offensively. And I never understand how they get away with it. So don't get me wrong. They drafted well. Najee Harris, I think, is going to be a huge deal for them. But guess what? There's too big of an albatross on this team. And it's not Juju Schuster not playing like he should. It is Ben Roethlisberger. The boy should have retired. They should have took this season to kind of stink it up and work on getting a quarterback because Haskins isn't it either. And I think that would have been the best way to really, while their pieces are still young, like maximize their future. But don't get me wrong, this has been Roethlisberger's last hurrah. And, I never count out Mike Tomlin to at least have a good regular season, which is why I'm giving them, quite frankly, more respect than I think they deserve, which is why I think they'll go second in the division. because I do expect them to just do what they do, which is just like Tim Tebow. They find ways to win, even though they're close, even though they went 11-0. We all know there are a lot of fraudulent close games, and I expect the same thing. I think they'll win a lot of tough games because that's what they do. They always squeak out those regular season games, no problem. They hit the playoffs and then they stumble. That's the bottom line. And so what I expect is they're just not as good as Cleveland, but they're going to do better than Baltimore and certainly better than Cincinnati. So I expect them to be second in the division. I expect them to probably go 11-6. I think they'll probably get 11 wins. I don't expect less than that. And I expect Baltimore to be in that 10-win range as well. Cincinnati's going to bottom dwell at like 5 or 6. So I think they'll be second in the division. I don't think they're overlooked. I think they're where they belong. And I think that's where they're going to be. I think they'll squeak into the playoffs and lose in the first round.
Marvin, where do you think Pittsburgh will sit in their division, the AFC North? And also, do you think that we're overlooking them in our NFL conversations?
Yeah, I think we're slightly overlooking them. I think that Ben Roethlisberger is he's been taking some unfair criticism. I think that down the stretch last year, if you look at minus that playoff game, he had a solid good year to me, but I think that this year they've got the weapons. They got a Najee Harris back there, who I think is going to be, a great workhorse running back for that team. They've got Chase Claypool. They've got Deontay Johnson. You got Corvette Juju. Just hope, he stay, he's mature enough this season. If he can stay off TikTok, which he won't. And I think that's one of the reasons what costs them offensively sometimes, because teams are targeting Juju, so they take him out of the game. So they just leaves him down to Chase Claypool and Deontay Johnson. But I think that they're being overlooked in the sense of how good this receiving core is. I mean, Chase Claypool is, I think, going to be one of the best. He's going to really break out this year, like he did last year. One of the best receivers, and be one of the best receivers in the game. Deontay Johnson, like I said last year, and I used to say on the wire, I think he is reminiscent of Antonio Brown with his route running. And that has bailed Ben Roethlisberger out a lot. I think the biggest question is how healthy is the offensive line, and can it hold up this year? And I think that in the division, I think they have a chance of, finishing second behind Cleveland, even, possibly winning the division if they can get off to a hot start next year and keep that consistency going, because their defense is still pretty solid. It's just been how healthy, well, Ben Roethlisberger's cut weight from what we can see, but how healthy is that arm? Can he get through this 17-game season? That's the question. When you've got Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield, Joe Burrow. I mean, these teams are better than what they were last year, and they're coming back at full strength. So I think ultimately it's going to come down to the Browns and the Steelers. But I think ultimately the Browns are the most talented team right now defensively, and Ben Roethlisberger is just not what he used to be to get around that pass rush if it came down to it again, because we saw him he turned over the ball 3 times in that playoff game. Was it 3-4 times? It was bad. So I think they're being overlooked, and they got a shot at really winning the division, but that's just about it. I think they'd be a one and done, or get to the second round and be done.
I have seen the black and gold on your shoulders before. I know you're a Tampa Bay fan, but I know that I've seen the jersey. What do you think, man? Are we overlooking them? You got a quick take here, and where do you think they fit in the division?
Yeah, Steelers one of my favorite teams. They're actually my second team. So, I mean, I'm a big-time Buccaneers fan. But whenever the Steelers are living in Ohio, you know what I'm saying, Steelers are on a lot. So they always play competitive games. I feel like the Steelers, they're not getting overlooked. Like Richie said, we know exactly who the Steelers are. If anything, Ben Roethlisberger is holding this team back. I will disagree. I think Dwayne Haskins was a godsend from heaven to the Pittsburgh Steelers, because he fits that Ben Roethlisberger mold. He's not super mobile. He can move around a little bit. He's got a big arm. He just didn't want to be in Washington. And how can you blame him? He just didn't want to be in Washington on that team that was going nowhere. He didn't see them getting Chase Young. and building the squad up to be what it is. But as soon as Dwayne Haskins is ready to take over, which I feel will be some point this year, the Steelers are going to take off. Just watch it. Because like Marvin said, they got a great receiving core. The Najee Harris down there, he's going to be a beast. So as soon as Dwayne Haskins can get in there, I think they'll take off.
Absolutely.
Okay, if they get Dwayne, maybe that's the key. Hey, I'll tell you what, I'm with Sahih. If they get Dwayne Haskins in there, maybe they squeak it over and they get one. But I don't see them getting one with Ben.
Oh, well, we want to know what you think. Hit us up in the comments below on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify. You can leave us a review. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, go to our Patreon, show your support, join our patrons, and get some behind the scenes. And make sure you tune in next week as we start our fantasy football draft. This has been The Wire. We're here every Wednesday at 8 p.m. You all have a good week.